Vikings now find themselves in a peculiar situation in which they could have clinched a playoff spot last week after beating the Detroit Lions if only the Philadelphia Eagles lost against the Houston Texans. But they came back and they won. So now it comes down to this. Week 17 against the Chicago Bears. We're going to preview that game. Also going to talk about Andrew Wiggins and how he told the fans to F off. Basically, he gave his survey feedback on the fans, and apparently they're not treating him all that well. We'll talk about that as well. This is Realistic Randy of the Mediokr at Best Sports Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. But you know what? You're going to have to win against the Chicago Bears if you're the Vikings. You have to expect that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to absolutely trounce the Washington Redskins. They're on their third-string quarterback at this point. They're nothing to raise hell about. You're going to have to beat Chicago. And I tell you what, after the way that last year ended, losing to the Philadelphia Eagles at the Link 38-7, and the Philadelphia Eagles coming to our house and winning the Super Bowl championship, because last year I was all in. I was all, skull to the bowl, baby, bring it home. And we got embarrassed, okay? And we see now, even up to this point, how anytime the Vikings post anything, the Eagles fans, they come out of nowhere, whether it's Facebook or Twitter, 38-7. They never let us live it down, right? I tell you one thing. If the Vikings lose to the Chicago Bears on Sunday and the Philadelphia Eagles win and they take our playoff spot, they are never going to let us live it down. You got to win. Now, you beat a team above 500 at the time of play, the Miami Dolphins. I've been saying that all year. You need to beat a team above 500 at the time of play, and they did, the Dolphins. But you know what? They stink. They don't even count for real. So let's change the verbiage a little bit. You need to beat a for real team, and this Chicago Bears team, they are for real. Khalil Mack is lead. Khalil Mack to me is the MVP. I'm sorry. I know we talk about Aaron Donald and Todd Gurley and Patrick Mahomes. I know they're all, but when you break it down, nobody expected nothing from the Chicago Bears. I was about to say the St. Louis Rams. The LA Rams and the Kansas City Chiefs, everybody expected them to be big hitters in their respective conferences. And in the case of Aaron Donald, you've got another fellow candidate, or fellow MVP candidate in Todd Gurley. And at one point, you had a third candidate in Jared Goff. Now, that's trickled off a little bit, but Khalil Mack is a player, man. He's a gamer. I think he's taken them. His presence alone made them for sure the best team in the division as far as the NFC North. And now they're a real contender in the NFC. I think they're a really, really good team. I think he should be the MVP just because of him coming to that team. They were like a year or two away from like, all right, we'll see what they could do, to now, no, they've arrived. They're a really good team. They should be respected. And I think Danielle Hunter should take serious consideration to be Defensive Player of the Year. Aaron Donald leading the league in sacks, 19 or 19 and a half sacks at defensive tackle is really, really impressive, okay? I'm not taking anything away from him, but the reason why, and I'm not being a homer here. People accuse me of being pessimistic Patrick all the time, hating on my own team, but the reason why I would probably give the edge to Danielle Hunter, again, Khalil Mack is MVP. If you want to give him MVP and Defensive Player of the Year, there's nothing I can say about that. But the reason why I would give Danielle Hunter the edge over Aaron Donald is because that 5-week span that Everson Griffin was gone, this dude, Danielle Hunter, he had, 6 sacks and however many TFLs and quarterback hits throughout that time, it was still dominating from the left end to the right end, to where basically it's the football equivalent from writing from your right hand to all of a sudden you need to write with your left hand at the same equivalency or the same efficiency. This dude, Danielle Hunter, didn't miss a beat, and he was going up against teams' best pass blockers at the left tackle spot during that time in which Everson Griffin was out. So I think, honestly, because of that, the Vikings, they went 3-2 during that span. He had, again, Danielle Hunter went off, man. I think he deserves serious consideration. I'm not saying he should win it, but I think he deserves consideration. Everybody ripped me a new one. Like, have you not heard of Aaron Donald? Yeah, I've heard of Aaron Donald. But again, you've had Ndamukong Suh that entire year. I know he hasn't been good, but Danielle Hunter going from left to right, playing out of position and still dominating, I think that should give him the edge over Aaron Donald. Now, getting back to the Chicago Bears game, previewing that, both defenses are going to show up. I expect the Vikings defense to absolutely kick some ass out there. Now, the difference between the two is that the Chicago Bears defense, they create a lot of opportunities, whereas the Vikings defense, they're not sexy. They're more of like a 3-and-out defense, and they'll stop you midfield, and they'll bring their offense back on the field, whereas the Chicago Bears, for example, okay? The Chicago Bears defense, they lead the league in forced turnovers with 36 turnovers. 27 of those turnovers are interceptions. Okay, so a league high 27 interceptions for the Chicago Bears, in which 5 of them were returned for touchdowns. And you compare that to the Vikings, comparing to the Chicago Bears, they're first in turnovers, forced turnovers. The Vikings are 15th in forced turnovers, 12 of them being picks, and 1 return to the house for a pick 6. So the opportunities that the Chicago Bears defense creates is massive. And if you're going to make any little mistake, the Chicago Bears defense, they can take it back. They can score some points on the defensive side of the ball. So you got to be really, really careful with that. I think Mike Zimmer, you're going to have to dial up a lot of blitz packages. I like what he's done the last couple of weeks with Mackensie Alexander rushing the quarterback. He's got a couple of sacks on the season. What a comeback season for Mackensie Alexander that he's had. But you're going to need to create a lot of just misdirection type plays on the defensive side of the ball to get Mitch Trubisky thinking a little bit longer than he has to. And then that way you can create opportunities. The defense, you're going to have to be absolutely nonstop, a stout defense on Sunday. Both defenses are going to show up. It's all going to come down to which offense makes the least amount of mistakes. But if you can somehow match that intensity of the Chicago Bears, I know it's going to be hard to do, but if you can somewhat match that, you're going to give yourselves a chance. Now, ever since Kevin Stefanski came on as the offensive coordinator, you've seen a lot of Dalvin Cook usage. Okay, you've seen him basically be the focal point of the offense. You need to continue doing that. Just get him the ball and let him make plays, and that takes a lot less pressure off of Kirk Cousins. And speaking of Kirk Cousins, you need to have an internal clock, dude, of like 2 to 2.5 seconds tops. Now, I know normally in football, the NFL, they give you, 3.5 seconds, and you need to either throw it to your receiver or get rid of the ball. 2 to 2.5 seconds, throw it to your receiver or get rid of the ball. Because the longer you hold on to that ball, Khalil Mack is going to get to you, okay? And the offensive line, just pray. There's really no game plans here. Just pray. Just pray that you don't look like buffoons out there with Mike Remmers at guard and everybody else. Just do the best you can. Pat Elflein, he's had a down year too. And the one thing that I will say that concerns me too about this offensive line, the zone blocking scheme that we have, I know we like to take pride in that, but there's something to be said about a team that focuses on zone blocking. But if you're going to because it requires a lot of technique, getting out in space, and that's fine. But when you have a team like the Chicago Bears defense, their technique is outstanding, but they also add the element of brute physicality, brute force in their defense. That takes over. So you're going to have to really, really be careful and stay on your P's and Q's against this Chicago Bears defense team. But honestly, again, Kirk Cousins, 2.5 seconds. Kevin Stefanski, use Dalvin Cook. Maybe be a little bit creative like you have been the last couple of weeks. Because those mistakes that you made, you're on a 2-game winning streak against the Dolphins and the Lions, okay? That interception, that pick 6 you had against the Dolphins and those four straight possessions against the Lions in which you netted 4 yards and 4 straight 3-and-outs, you can't do that against this team. You're going to need to be aggressive. Get Latavius Murray, Dalvin Cook the ball, but also include your tight ends like you've been doing. Kyle Rudolph, he had a monster game last week. Get out there and get the ball to Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen. You're going to have to make some plays happen because they're going to capitalize on the mistakes if you make them. So hopefully they can do that. As far as a prediction is concerned, I'm not going to make one. I'm not going to make a prediction at all. I know I said on Monday's podcast, by the way, normally now we're on a Tuesday and Saturday schedule, but this past Tuesday was Christmas. I'm like, I'm not doing a podcast on Christmas. Are you serious? And then next week is Tuesday's New Year's. I'm not doing a podcast for that either. So now, last week I did the podcast on Monday. Next week I'm doing a podcast on Monday again after Sunday's game against the Chicago Bears at US Bank Stadium, damn it. But I said last week on Monday that, hey, I'll make my prediction on Saturday. I don't know. I need to think. I'm not going to break it down. Oh, I did break it down. I'm not going to make a prediction, okay? And here's why. I just gave you the rundown of how the Vikings have a chance to beat the Chicago Bears, but it's the Vikings. It's the Vikings, man. I've seen this too many times where it's like, hey, all you got to do is X, Y, Z. Don't make mistakes. Dalvin Cook, the defense. Oh, play action. Play action. Hey, Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is outstanding on play action. Now, depending on the offensive line and the pass rush of the Chicago Bears, who's to say if Kirk Cousins will even have time to get off a play action pass? But we'll see. But I just broke down, okay, this is what the Vikings can do to maybe win the game, but it's the Vikings. They'll go out there and put out a circus show in these types of games, okay? So this is a big game for Mike Zimmer. You're going to have to show up. But in these types of big games, they usually just do something stupid. So I'm not going to make a prediction. I'm going to sit back and be a neutral observer, whereas we'll have a couple of TFLs. We'll give up a couple of TFLs, 3 pick sixes. Dan Bailey will go out there and miss 4 kicks, 3 extra points, and 1 field goal, and just end the game. I'm not going to do it. So I'm just going to sit back and see what happens. Moving on to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Andrew Wiggins. Now, before I get into that, let's be clear about something. The Minnesota Timberwolves, they lost to the Atlanta Hawks last night, 123-120 in overtime. You know what's crazy? The Minnesota Timberwolves, they just lose to the goofiest team. Quite honestly, they're not a good team. They're 16-19, so you're not even all that great. You're below 500. But you went from, like 10 days ago, losing to the Phoenix Suns, one of the worst teams in the league, to being down 22 points at one point in the game against one of the worst teams in the league, the Atlanta Hawks, and you lost to them in overtime. They were giving you every reason to win the game. They were trying to give you the win after you came back from that 22-point deficit. You were up, 9 points at one point in the fourth quarter, and you completely gave the game away. It's not all Andrew Wiggins' fault. You were up 4 points with 30 seconds left. And you gave the ball, or the Atlanta Hawks, they inbounded the ball, a couple of offensive rebounds that the team collectively gave up, to where John Collins finished it up with a putback layup, cutting the deficit from 4-2. And then on the next play, if I'm not mistaken, Dario Saric inbounded the ball, a terrible pass, shouldn't have passed the ball to Karl-Anthony Towns with Kent Bazemore draped all over him. Kent Bazemore stole the inbound pass, stripped it from Karl-Anthony Towns, and took away for a breakaway dunk to even the score. And that's how you got into overtime. And then Rocco, at one point in overtime, Dario Saric passed the ball to, I believe this is in overtime, Dario Saric passed the ball to Robert Covington under the basket, tried to go up for a dunk, and as he was going for the dunk, he lost the ball. He just lost the ball and gave the ball away. So it's not all his fault. The Minnesota Timberwolves, they shot 55% from the free throw line last night, so it's not all his fault. But Andrew Wiggins was the biggest perpetrator. And before I get into him, actually one more thing I want to bring up. Derrick Rose now has a sprained ankle. We're going to have to see how he does. This dude at Chicago played 38 minutes, okay? And that's where he got the MVP chance, and good for him. He's having a really, really good year. Sometimes he takes just stupid shots where I'm like, really? What are you doing? And he's ball dominant too. But you know what? He's having a really, really good year. You need to feature Cat more, okay? But sometimes he act like he's 2006 or 2011 Derrick Rose, but he's not the same guy, but he's having a really good year. He played 38 minutes at Chicago, and he played 39 minutes against the Atlanta Hawks. And a guy that has that much athleticism, or at least bases his game off of his athleticism, he's got that pick and pop bounce back. He's got all that stuff back. But with guards like that, you need to treat them. Forget just guards, just all your players. Stop running your starters into the ground, bro. Tibbs should know this by now. The more you keep playing your starters all these damn minutes, the more wear and tear you get. I play basketball once or twice a week, okay? And I use those, I think they're called Copper Fit. Those they don't pay me for this. I'm really, really saying this for real. But Copper Fit, they those compression sleeves that Brett Favre, he does those commercials for, and Jerry Stickum Rice, Randy Moss, the greatest receiver of all time. But anyway, those Copper Fit compression sleeves, I use those to protect my joints, because the way that I play, I'm gonna say this. I'm not even trying to hype myself up. On my absolute worst day of playing ball, I'm Draymond Green. Great defense, rebounding, blocking, and I'm a pretty good playmaker, okay? I'm going to find you an open shot to give you an easy look, okay? That's who I am. That's my worst day. I will defend the best players on the floor, especially in the perimeter. Even if you're 6'4", 6'5", 6'8", whatever, I will guard you on the perimeter. And once you take me inside the paint, it's whatever. But if you're 6'1", I can take you in the paint as well. That's all fine. But on my best day, I would say Draymond Green with a mix of DeMar DeRozan or Jimmy Butler. My mid-range shot is pretty good, and I can attack the basket. Okay, fine. But the way that I play, because I jump, I grab boards over dudes that are taller than me, my knees be hurting, okay? So I got to do yoga. I got to make sure I hydrate myself. I got to make sure I do all these different things to protect myself. And I'm not playing like Derrick Rose, who's playing at the highest level in the world, 38, 35 minutes a night. Again, and they're playing, what, 3, sometimes 4 times a week. You can't do that, man. That's basketball malpractice. So we'll have to see if Jeff Teague is able to even come back. But Derrick Rose has a sprained ankle. Otherwise, if they're both out, you're looking at Tyus Jones being your starting point guard. So anyway, hope Derrick Rose can come back healthy. But Tibbs doesn't seem to learn from his past mistakes as far as running his starters into the ground. Now getting into Andrew Wiggins. This dude, I compared him to Anthony Barr last week as far as just getting all these rewards and accolades based off of more of their hype than their actual production. But Andrew Wiggins, I don't think I've ever seen a professional athlete have this much lack of self-awareness. And when I say lack of self-awareness, I'm talking about you damn near missed the start last night because you left your jersey in the locker room. You just put your warm-ups on and didn't put your jersey on. You haven't changed your game at all. Dude, if I was getting paid, Andrew Wiggins is tied with Joel Embiid as the 18th highest paid player in the league, according to BusinessInsiders.com. Tied with Joel Embiid as the 18th highest paid player in the league, okay? He's getting like $148 million over 5 years. If I was recognized as one of the highest paid people in my profession, like, even if I wasn't that good, because Andrew Wiggins is nowhere close. By the way, the gap between Andrew Wiggins and Joel Embiid is like a gazillion tenfold, like light years, whatever. But if I was recognized, even if I wasn't nearly as good to be one of the highest paid, if I got paid that much money, no matter what industry I'm in, I would go to seminars, I would work on my craft, like, okay, how can I get better? How can I work to improve on this, X, Y, Z? And even if I think I know it all, I need to consistently learn. I need to constantly learn so that way I can justify what I'm getting, but also to be a valuable asset to my employer, to my business, okay? Andrew Wiggins looks like a guy that just got fat and happy and just hasn't cared. He looks like he doesn't care. He hasn't changed his game at all. He's still doing the dumbest stuff out there. There was one point in the first quarter where this dude, I think it was like a minute and a half left in the first quarter. This dude, Andrew Wiggins, had the ball right. He was doing like a left and a right shimmy shake, like a foot beyond the three-point line, okay? Then all of a sudden, he took a step inside the three-point line and launched a long two. Look, why are you doing that? That's so stupid. If you're going to launch up a long shot like that, you might as well take it from 3. At least you'll get an extra point from it. Anyway, he took the long shot from 2, clanked it off the back iron, clank, and then the Atlanta Hawks got the rebound. I forgot what happened after that. But that's what I'm talking about. That's what Andrew Wiggins has been doing his entire career. Just complete lack of awareness. And then you go out there after the game. By the way, you went 5 for 14 from the field and 5 for 12 from the free throw line. Again, the Minnesota Timberwolves, they shot like 55% from the free throw line, so it's not all his fault. But he was the biggest perpetrator. 5 for 12 from the free throw line. He's serious right now? And he got booed at one point, to which after the game, the post game, Andrew Wiggins got asked about those boos. This dude, Andrew Wiggins, said, quote, "That's fans for you. We've got some Scooty fans." I can't say the word. I don't know. Maybe I can say the word. Now that I'm with 1500 ESPN, I don't know. I don't want to jeopardize all that. So I'll just say we've got some Scooty fans and we've got some good fans. That's just how it works. And then talking about how the Timberwolves went from 21 of 38 from the stripe, he said, quote, "It happens. It's one of those days and one of those games." He looks like he doesn't care. And the fact that you're going to sit there and you expect the fans to just, cheer you after missing free throws to where you could at least try to seal the game? How do you lose to the Atlanta Hawks, dog? Are you serious? Like, we're talking about free throws. You're a professional basketball player. You haven't improved your game at all. You don't get assists. You take stupid-ass shots all the time. You're basically a black hole on offense. You're okay on defense, and you have done nothing. You've done nothing. And this goes beyond Andrew Wiggins. This goes on Glenn Taylor for just signing him to that stupid-ass contract. This is on you. This dude sat there and said, I made Andrew Wiggins look me in the eye and promise me that he's going to work on his game. Oh, really? Oh, that's what did it for you? You're a shitty owner, dude. Oh, I said it out there. Okay, fine. I said it. You're a shitty owner. Andrew Wiggins is a shitty player. And Tom Thibodeau is a shitty coach. He really, really is. Tom Thibodeau, why are you playing this dude? Why are you playing Andrew Wiggins starter minutes? Chandler Parsons, I don't get why the Memphis Grizzlies, why they gave him They gave Chandler Parsons they gave him a max contract, $24 million a year. Okay, that was stupid. But you know what they said? You know what, this dude stinks. We're not gonna play this dude as a starter. He's coming off the bench. In fact, he's like their third small forward. He's like their third small forward. Why? Because he's terrible. He's a terrible player. Why are you playing Andrew Wiggins starter minutes? Man, if I was your head coach, if I was the Timberwolves head coach, I would have his ass come off the bench. Straight up. But you know what? These fans, they deserve better. They're booing you because they're paying their hard-earned money to watch you go out there and look like a fool. And you gonna sit there and get mad at the fans? It's like this dude's lack of self-awareness is unlike anything that I've ever seen before. But anyway, I don't know what to tell you. You're stuck with this dude for another 4 years. Glenn Taylor, Tom Thibodeau, Andrew Wiggins, you all deserve each other. So anyway, post-game reaction, that will be on Monday. Vikings-Bears, hopefully they get the win off. We'll have to see how they do. Minimize the mistakes, Kirk Cousins in the offense, and you should do fine. We'll see you on Monday.